Good morning and welcome to the first episode of the virtual Big Day in Queensland. My name is Shorju Dassaman, an intern at the ACS Foundation, and I will be your virtual Big Day in co-host for today. I'd like to introduce Matthew Jorgensen from the Australian Computer Society to officially open this event and introduce the Gateway to Industry Schools program.
Thank you, Georgiou. Hello, everyone. My name is Matthew Jorgensen, Project Manager for the ICT Gateway to Industry Schools program. I work for the Australian Computer Society. I'd like to begin by acknowledging the traditional owners of the lands upon which we all meet today. For me, the Bundjalung people. I would also like to pay my respects to elders past and present. The ICT Gateway program connects schools, students and teachers with technology professionals in order to provide invaluable industry experience. By connecting with the people and organisations that are actually working within the tech industry, students can understand the types of roles that exist. We want to help teachers become more confident teaching with and about technology, increase the number of students studying tech subjects in schools, TAFE and uni, and build a larger pool of employees for our Queensland and Australian tech companies to hire. We are so happy to be part of the ACS Foundation's virtual Big Day In, and we thank the Foundation for providing these virtual Big Day In sessions with innovative Queensland-based ICT professionals. The stories you will hear over these 3 Queensland editions will hopefully inspire you to consider a career in technology. Thank you also to our wonderful presenters. I'd like to acknowledge the Queensland Government for the past, present and future support of this Gateway to Industry Schools program. Back to you, Georgiou.
Thanks, Matthew. Thank you for opening this wonderful event. The Big Day In is an IT careers conference in an online form this year, aimed at giving you an insight into where a career in technology can take you. Today, we'll be hearing from 2 insightful presenters, Genevieve Ash from TechnologyOne and Scott Reid from RIoT Solutions. This virtual event is interactive, so you can always ask questions of either presenter during their presentations, no matter how trivial you think they are. Just hit the Ask a Question button on the bottom right, type something up, and we'll take care of the rest. Our first presenter for today is Genevieve Ash from TechnologyOne. Genevieve is a business analyst within TechnologyOne's research and development team. She's passionate about using technology to simplify and solve complex business problems. On any given day, her work can revolve from deep process maps to user experience design. So please welcome me in joining our first presenter for today, Genevieve Ash from TechnologyOne, with her presentation, What Do I Even Do at TechOne?
Unmute, there we go. Hopefully you can hear me now. Hi, everyone. As Georgiou said, I am Genevieve, and I am a business analyst at TechnologyOne. So what I'm going to do today is try and run you through the company that I work for and how we fit into the tech world, and then how my job fits into that, and the wide range of jobs that I didn't know existed that actually do exist. Because I feel like when I went into tech, I had no idea what was actually available to me, and it was kind of just you were a dev and that was it, but it's not. So we're going to go through that. I believe you're all in your last few years of school, so you're probably thinking about, or someone's asked you to think about, what you want to do after school and then for work. Hands up, jokes, can't see you. But I'm guessing that majority of you don't think that work's going to be fun. Work is work, but I think you can definitely kind of combine the two, unless your parents are Instagrammers, in which case work may seem fun. But anyway. So what if I told you that the workplace you've seen in TV shows and in movies with all the bean bags and the breakfast bar and the nap pods actually exists, and it's actually becoming kind of standard in tech? So you've heard of the Silicon Valley tech giants like Google, Apple, Instagram. Well, we are an Australian tech giant. So we are TechnologyOne, and we are Australia's largest enterprise software company. So a bit about the company I work for. We were the OG tech startup. We started 33 years ago in a processing plant in Brisbane that apparently smelled pretty bad. And it was a long time ago, as you can tell from the resolution of this picture. But from those humble beginnings, we have grown into a multinational software company, still proudly based in Brisbane. So we have 14 different offices and over 1,200 employees around the world, I think now. And we do get to actually have a lot of fun with a lot of cool people. So yes, that pool table right here is in the center of our office in Brisbane, alongside a full GT Sports setup. We do have a full room dedicated to VR, and we do have breakfast bars, and we do have beanbags. But you know, we weren't always the cool people you see in front of you and in these pictures. As you can see here, actually that's me, so that means I'm still not cool. That's fair. So yes, I'm Genevieve, and I am a business analyst in the SaaS department at TechnologyOne. How I got here, cute me. I did study IT in school, but the original plan for me was to go to the conservatorium and be a classical musician. So I went to university and I studied engineering and psychology, which was super close. I started out as mechatronics engineering, which is kind of like robotics, and then quickly realized I did not like mechanical engineering. So I switched into software engineering and psychology, with a bit of electrical engineering thrown in there. I then proceeded to tour my way around the faculties at the University of Queensland. I did business subjects, biology subjects, marketing, law, economics, accounting, pretty much every building you could get into at UQ, I was in there. But going through that and getting to trial all of those things, I also did a few online courses to figure out what I wanted to do. I realized that I actually did enjoy software and tech, but I left for a bit anyway, came back. I moved to New Zealand for a bit, toured around in a van. But eventually I did come back and I switched into IT to graduate earlier. But it was there that I actually discovered a whole new side to tech. And it was that really started to intrigue me. So it turns out there's a whole other process to building software before you actually get into the development work. Don't get me wrong, there are days where I love dev work and there are days where I just want to be staring at a black screen of code, but it ended up being the steps before and after that I was really into, and those steps are kind of like figuring out what actually needs to be created. So you can develop something, but what are you developing? What's that going to look like? How is that going to work? Why are you building that? And getting to shape the experience that our customers would end up having. So what I do is kind of take the processes that our customers have to do and find ways to make those faster and smarter and more streamlined. I design the whole thing and then I pass it off to the devs and then they build it. We'll come back to that. But how I got into TechOne first is I joined the TechOne grad program in 2018 as a graduate business analyst. I'm now just a business analyst. But I went through our grad program, which was super fun. And let me know if you want to know more about that in the Q&A. And now I bridge the gap between our customers' requirements and our developers and tie that into the SaaS infrastructure, which I'll talk about later. I think that's what I do anyway. But yeah, I'll just mention TechOne and how we fit into the tech world so you can kind of get an idea of then the work that I do. So our ethos is to transform business and make life simple. That's like the slogan. So what that means from a software perspective is that we write software that runs our customers' businesses and lets them get back to delivering services to their customers. So the thing that was kind of tricky for me to wrap my head around was we don't sell to the public. Our software is not something you're going to download off the App Store. Like, it's not something you can just purchase online. We sell to customers like Iona College, a large chunk of the councils across Australia, like Noosa and Moreton Bay in Queensland. We sell to the Royal Flying Doctors Service, TAFE Queensland, QUT, Scripture Union, Channel 7, Ticketek, a wide range of customers like wouldn't usually go together. But so we create the software that allows these businesses to function internally so that they can continue to provide their service to their customers. Yeah, so an example of the kind of software innovation that we deliver is software called DXP, or Digital Experience Platform, and that utilizes AI, which is a fun trigger word for everybody. But yeah, so the awesome software is about making our customers' life simple, as I said. So I just want to give you a few examples of doing that. And when we talk about our customers, we really talk about them in two ways. The first is, what does that customer need to run their business effectively and simply? And then the second is, how can we help that customer in making their customers' lives simple? So for the first, about running the business effectively and simply, this is about advanced automation and business processes. So for example, I'm trying to come up with a relevant example, a lot of you will be starting to look at higher ed, so going to TAFE or going to uni, or any kind of place that has an admissions process. All of the institutions I'm thinking of have a very defined and complex admissions process. So our student management software, which is one of our core products, streamlines and automates that process for our education customers. And what that means is that they get offers out to you, their ideal candidate, faster. So this gives them a competitive advantage over other colleges in their area, because they get an offer to you before another college does, and they are more likely to get you as a student, which is their ideal goal. Yeah, examples. So the second one, about how we make our customers' lives simple to make their customers' lives simple. This is about customer experience. So what you see on the screen here, this is our digital experience platform, as I mentioned. So one of the features it offers is an AI-powered expense management app, which probably, maybe, sounds pretty boring. But this app lets me take a photo of a receipt, for example, an Uber or a meal receipt, and the AI engine reads the data from the photo and automatically submits it as an expense claim for me, categorizing it, sorting out each of the expenses if there's multiple on there, doing all of that for me so that I can be reimbursed for the expense really quickly. So this is a key representation of TechnologyOne AI and how that kind of feeds into process automation. So how this would have worked previously is I would have had to go into an Excel spreadsheet and enter all of the fields of the receipt manually. But instead, this smartly gathers the data from the image, categorizes it accordingly so that I and our customers can get back to the rest of their day instead of having to spend 20 minutes on an expense thing. So that's how TechnologyOne builds our software, and that's what our customers use. So then my job is around the SaaS platform, which is like cloud computing. It's like a word that everyone uses, but I don't know if you do know what it is, then cool. But we're gonna before we dive too deep, we're gonna have a little bit of history. We're gonna lay some foundations. So cloud computing, or more lovingly referred to as the cloud, all proper nouns, capital T and capital C, is an umbrella term for a number of services. So to kind of oversimplify it, it is computations performed on servers in another location. So it's like in movies when the hacker goes into those rooms with the towers of servers and the lights, and they're all like, I'm hacking into the mainframe. It's like that, but you're at home and you're accessing all of that stuff from home because no one wants to leave the house anymore. Yeah, so a lot of this comes from how traditional IT was set up. So it was those rooms essentially that you see in movies, but they were set up locally for each business. So every single business had to have their own data storage, their own like processing servers. And there were a lot of common issues that were faced in those environments. So the most common being hardware failure and managing downtime, because if there was a fire or an earthquake or a power outage, you could lose access to your entire interface. It was also very expensive because you had to purchase all of the infrastructure, and it required a lot of expertise to run, which is even more expensive. So what happened then is this came about with AWS, which is Amazon Web Services, Google Cloud, Microsoft Azure, which is public cloud offerings. So there are companies that essentially built this infrastructure themselves and then were like, you can rent it, and then we just access it through the internet. So by consuming a public cloud offering as a company, we get to reduce risk and cost at the same time. So when done well, cloud computing is like very, very good, but it's a fine line between to get the optimal performance and cost, which is actually another area in tech that you could go into, which is called production engineering or DevOps, or a lot of other words in there. But then SaaS which sits under the wider umbrella of cloud computing. So it is software which is accessible over the internet and is typically available through a subscription service. And this is literally everything that I use every day, and you too probably, because it is Spotify, Dropbox, Office 365. So every time I have to edit a Word document from my phone or my computer at home, Netflix, Google Drive, Apple iCloud. What else do we use? Blackboard? Google Sheets, Google Docs. I don't remember what they're called anymore. But yeah, literally pretty much everything I use every day. So SaaS was created to kind of like maximize on the benefits of cloud while increasing profits of the service. So then how TechnologyOne uses SaaS, which is this beautiful slide here, which I really need to update. Yeah, so in our cloud, we have the production line of servers, which is that row in the middle, all running the exact same software. So in our case, that is the TechnologyOne enterprise software, but that could be like Google Docs. And it is being run for many companies at once. So we manage that whole production line, and all the customer has to do is just type in their URL, and then just go to google.com, but go to their URL, and then everything's just sorted. So we manage their data and we manage the infrastructure, and all they have to do is just go boop, 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 done, and they can start work. There is so much information on this, so please send through questions, which if you want, or Google it if you're keen. Yeah, but this is essentially how TechnologyOne functions. Everyone's data and configuration is separate, but it then travels through a TechOne server. Yeah. So what do I do? Honestly, I have no idea. Every day is different. Every project I work on is a wild ride. Every time someone asks me, so what do you do? I'm like, I don't know. I am a business analyst, which is like a word that people use for a lot of different things. So I work with a number of different teams within our SaaS department, one of which is we have our own front end that we develop to assist the team who manages the SaaS infrastructure to do everything they need to do a lot faster. So it allows them to, say, create another database for a customer or spin up another environment for them in like 5 minutes rather than 12 hours of manual work. So that's one of the things we do. We work on that front end. I also have been working on developing a customer self-service project to allow our customers a quicker turnaround with request to the SaaS service. So currently with that, there are a lot of middle and manual steps, but the eventual goal is to kind of go from like, here are the resources and how you can actually do this task, and here's the customer. Currently, there's a lot of steps in the middle that you have to go through. You've got to like talk to individual people, but I think the eventual goal is to just have a direct link between those two. Like a customer should just be able to go online, change a thing or request a thing, and then just have it done. Because no one wants to go have to call someone and ask them to do something. I don't want to talk to anyone on the phone. This is terrifying. Should just be able to do it online. But yeah, so I think the link here is, again, it's just allowing customers to speed up the software task and allowing them to get back to providing their service. And I think this really encompasses what software is trying to do a lot of the time. So you have machine learning and AI coming in on top of that. I'm not an expert, but these things, like, they tie into everything we're doing every day. So you've got the machine learning and the AI trying to predict what you want to do. So putting together like multiple steps together, because I'm like, you typically do these together, and learning how you like to use it and what you might like to do in future. Like, very basic example, but like Siri suggestions. It like learns what you might want at a certain type of day. And then you have the automation work that underpins that, which allows all of those processes to happen in the most efficient way that we can. Yeah. So SaaS itself, sorry, I'll get back to that, actually came up a lot recently with COVID-19. So a lot of companies had what we called an on-premise solution. So everything would have been stored in a local data center. They manage the infrastructure themselves, and you could really only access that from the direct workplace. You couldn't access it from home. And suddenly everyone couldn't go to work. And so companies had to suddenly migrate to the cloud and get everyone working really easily from home, which was cue, TechnologyOne SaaS. We came to save the day. Got everyone's like getting up and running really quickly because we just ask AWS to get up all these resources. You don't have to purchase everything and get it up and running, which is another benefit of SaaS. Sorry, kind of jumping all over the place here. But yeah, Q&A. Something that I did want to mention, because again, you'll be going into university or TAFE or whatever, sorry. And I think it's really important to think about what company you're working for. So something that was important to me when I was looking for work was social responsibility. And TechnologyOne is a part of what's called the 1% pledge. So that is 1% of time, 1% of profit, and 1% of product to charitable causes. So what this means to me directly is that as a grad and every year I get to spend 2 days volunteering, paid. So for me, that was, we volunteered at Young Care, at the Salvation Army, at Conservation Queensland, where we spent a day planting 1,000 trees, got a lot of blisters, but that eventually is becoming a butterfly and koala corridor, so that was cool. And we've prepped food for Young Care. But yeah, so I think TechnologyOne feels a keen social responsibility, which again is core to me. And I think that we found since starting the TechOne Foundation 3 years ago is that it's really been embraced by the company. We are in such a privileged position that I did appreciate that TechOne was able to acknowledge that and be aware that we have to give back. Again, it is our social responsibility to give back if we're in a privileged position to do so. So it is nice that I get to work each day knowing that the company I work for has an impact, and it's more than just a software company, which is cool in its own right, but it's more than that. And I think it's the foundation that extends us in that way. Yeah. Here are some cool culture photos. I did have a video, but we tried it last time and it was not going to work. So here are some fun pictures. Down the bottom right is me. Bottom left is some cream getting slapped on people's faces. Top right is real life Rocket League. That was fun. But all the pictures here is actually from the TechnologyOne big game. And so that is an event that's run for the computing societies at UQ or QUT, if anyone ends up going to those universities. They're both great. You should look up this event. It's really cool. They run it every year and you all get to come in and you get free food. Yeah, TechOne has a great culture. You get free stuff. Wow, I really didn't wrap that up too well, but I hope I've kind of shown you a little bit about how it works working at TechnologyOne and at a technology company. I think every day for me is kind of quite fun. Get to be creative. I hope you learned a bit about SaaS and the software that runs businesses in a way that I didn't really know about until working at TechnologyOne. So yeah, questions?
Yeah, no, absolutely. We've got a fair few questions come through. So we'll start, I guess, we'll start with this question. Is technology and technology pathways, is that a good career choice for girls?
Definitely, yes, always. It's a good career choice for anyone. Your gender does not matter. We can vamp on that, but yes, yeah, absolutely. No qualms.
Another question we have about working at TechOne, I guess. Do you have like a lot of travel involved in your job? Like, can you work from anywhere and work from different parts of the world or work around the world within TechnologyOne? Yeah.
So we have a UK team, we have a Vietnam team, we have a Bali team. We have people working all around offices in Australia. But on top of that, I'm actually in the office today. It's the third time I've been in the office since March. In my team directly, we have customers working in Wellington, in Melbourne, in Canberra, but HQ is in Brisbane. So I think, yes, TechnologyOne, especially our whole ethos is allowing customers to work from anywhere. So yeah, we're able to work from home. We've been doing it well for months, and we do have a lot of remote workers. So yeah, time differences can be difficult if you need meetings, but yes, TechnologyOne does accommodate that. Yeah, for sure. Another question about TechnologyOne.
You mentioned you had a VR room earlier, like right at the start of your presentation. What's the VR room used for at TechOne?
Playing games. There's one where you like being chased by zombies. It's terrifying. I don't know how people play it. Ooh, there's also a game called Beat Saber, where you have lightsabers and you have to like chop blocks to the beat. It's literally dedicated to VR. That's what the room is for, playing games.
Fair enough. More about TechnologyOne and bit of your SaaS platform. What does TechnologyOne's software on the cloud actually do, I guess, for businesses?
Yeah, so that is a big question, like a lot of stuff. So we have a lot of different products. We have what's called 12 different verticals, but that's essentially so we can run student management software. Our biggest one's probably financial, so that's allowing people to like run payroll, human resource. I think it's called HR and payroll is one of the products. We run asset management. We do property and rating, so that's like councils allowing rates runs to go out. Again, it's like nothing that you use day to day. It's nothing that you or I would really use, but it allows businesses to function. It's a lot of stuff. And honestly, I'm not in product. I don't really know, but you can look it up. Look it up online. Check out our website. There's a lot of products.
I've got time for a few more questions. Are there any positions in TechOne for like non-school leavers, or do you have entry-level positions such as traineeships? Do you know anything about that by any chance?
We do have paid internships, but I think those are typically, again, through university. I know, so I think I briefly mentioned it, but we have the production engineering team. So they, or it's called DevOps or infrastructure ops. It has a lot of different names, but they're essentially the team that manages the infrastructure. So they're running capacity for like spinning up of servers and all of that kind of stuff that allows customers to like run their software fast enough that they can function. I think a lot of this stuff, especially in tech, you can learn it online without having to go to university. I believe in most of the roles I see typically, you do require a bachelor in any kind of degree. There's like, but there are definitely roles where you can work around that. If you get experience in another role and then come in elsewhere. I don't believe we offer traineeships outside of the internships that are linked with a bachelor degree. Yeah.
Fair enough. Another important question, I think, pretty loaded question we've got from Hillcrest Christian College. What is the most rewarding thing about working in the IT industry?
Oof. Free breakfast? No. I like the challenge of having every problem I have to solve is always different. You're never solving the same thing twice. If you're solving the same thing twice, you've done something wrong. But what that means is, what was the most rewarding thing? Yeah, I think getting to know that the things you actually implement make a difference. So it's like you have a direct correlation to like, if I speed this up, this saves X amount of time for our customers, which means that they can provide this amount of stuff, which also again comes into the 1% pledge, because we offer our product to a lot of not-for-profits, and if I speed up that means they get back to being able to volunteer more and helping out more people. So yeah, being able to see a direct correlation of your work be represented for our customers, and also being able to be challenged every day in a good way.
Yeah, no, sounds great. Got a few more questions, got time for maybe two more. Did you experience any opposition to you entering or working in technology and engineering? Were there any barriers? And if so, how did you manage these barriers and this opposition? Did you have like mentors or people you looked up to help you get through that?
I mean, I think I was fairly privileged growing up. There weren't too many barriers to me, honestly. Very privileged, actually, what am I saying? I think the first few years of uni were quite a struggle for me, because I was having to support myself. So having to work on, like, working 3 days a week on top of studying full time is a lot. That is stressful, but I think don't be too hard on yourself in the first year or so, because it is a massive learning curve. that transition from going from school to university, where suddenly no one's checking up on you and making sure you've done everything. And that was really stressful because I would just like leave it and then suddenly it was too late and I was like, oh no. So yeah, barriers were myself really, and having to learn how to time manage and how to balance my life, what was important, what wasn't, and being more efficient with my learning. I think, yeah, so the key things was trying to make friends. So going to your classes and going to sitting in COVID social distancing, but when you can, going back to the rooms where everyone is sitting with your classmates and trying to make friends, because I think having a group was very helpful. As long as you've got someone who's going to help you and be there with you, that definitely helped me push through that. Yeah.
For sure. No, sounds good. We've just run out of time for questions, but thanks, Genevieve, again for all your insights, sharing your passion and sharing your experiences about the tech sector. Thank you for having me. I will answer any questions afterwards if I can. Let me follow up. Thank you. Yeah. If you submitted a question but it wasn't answered, don't worry. We'll put together a questions and answers document with all of Genevieve's responses at a later time. These answers will be uploaded to the Big Dayin website at www.thebigdayin.com.au. Our next presenter for today is Scott Reid, the Director and Founder for RIoT Solutions. Prior to leading RIoT Solutions, Scott held many senior executive positions in his 17-year career at Cisco Systems, including National Lead of Public Sector Digitization, National Lead of Healthcare, and Regional Manager of Cisco Systems, responsible for its entire operations in Queensland, the Northern Territory, and Papua New Guinea. A seasoned ICT executive, Scott has over 27 years of experience in the ICT industry and in Queensland, and has had management roles with national and international companies, such as Dell Computer Systems and Volante. He has previously owned and operated a large local ICT firm, Silicon Data. A consistent theme for him has been his dedication in ensuring the ICT industry participates in social responsibility, and he continues to be a strong advocate for this area of industry. So please join me for welcoming our next presenter for today, Scott Reid from RIoT Solutions, with his talk, My Journey.
Thanks very much. Really appreciate the introduction, and thank you to Genevieve for that last presentation, really interesting. Guys, I'm not going to bore you with any death by PowerPoint slides. I'm going to talk from my heart. As you can tell by the grey hair and the beard, I'm a bit of an older gentleman in this industry. And as the introduction goes, been in it for about 30 years. So what's important to me is to share with you my journey. I've had a blessed career, and this industry's been amazing for me. So what I wanted to share with you today was a little bit of my journey, what were my steps and my background, and then also give you a little bit of a different perspective of what this industry means and what a career in this industry means, because it's, as you've heard, it's many and varied, and I've had a fortunate piece to be involved in much of that. And then lastly, to give you some idea of some career paths that are available for you to how you take advantage of this industry. I'm coming to you today from our new facility. So my latest company, best way I can describe to you is we get paid by governments, banks, and organisations to break in and tell them how we broke in and tell them how to protect their organisations. So that's pretty interesting sort of career role. So it's very much a cyber. So what you're sitting in here is a security operations centre with the team here, and the screens in the background that you can see. We are monitoring and protecting most of the government, a lot of international and national companies looking for security threats and doing that. But let me talk to you a little bit about my career and where I've come from. So my background, I'm just a lucky country lad that did okay. I come from a small country town outside of Toowoomba called Helidon. Went to a small school, in fact so small that we had 3 grades to 1 teacher. So it sort of learnt me that what the foundation I got from there was how to interface with people and how to talk to people was really an important career. After school, I actually went on to university, And by trade, I'm actually a special ed teacher for handicapped children, which gave me a lot of inspiration as to how to apply this industry. But interesting, my career in this industry started when I decided to take a bit of a gap year from teaching, and I was working in my mum and dad's video store. And and a lot of you must don't even know what a video store is, but back then it was where you went and you actually hired a movie and you went home and you played it, and it was great. But my parents at that point in time decided to computerize their video store, and the chap I was sort of helping and was quite interested with the chap doing it, was helping enter the data, and decided to go and have a drink with him one night. And he simply turned around to me and said, "Hey, you seem to get on okay with people. Would you like to come and be my agent for selling my software to video stores and service stations?" And I went, "Well, I've got nothing else to do. I'll give it a go. Why not give it a crack?" And so the first lesson, no matter what career you ever select, there's a thing called doing your apprenticeship and doing your time. And you start at the bottom and you work your way up. Really, really important piece. And it's really important to get those foundations to be able to do that. So as I progressed through that, I was various roles within the ICT industry, but then another company that you may know of, Dell. I was actually number 3 for Dell in this country to establish Dell. So I had the charter and the role then to establish Dell. Now back then, Dell only had computers. They didn't have laptops, they didn't have servers, they didn't have all of the wonderful things that they had. And they're actually a mail order house out of the United States. But I started working for them and doing some really great things, and an amazing career. Got to travel the world with Dell and see various bits and pieces. And then at that point in time, there was a part of me going, you know, I reckon I'm going to have a crack at doing something myself. So I went and started my own integration company. Back then, supplying desktops and software and printers and everything to enterprises and government, and it went pretty well. In fact, it went so well that ended up selling the company and floating the company nationally, which was really, really interesting. Again, which opened another door. At that point in time, I actually had a work restriction on me that wouldn't allow me to work anywhere in the industry for 3 years because I may be a competitor to the company that I sold to. And then I asked, well, could I go and work for a vendor? And the board said, look, no problem, off you go. So I started my blessed career at Cisco Systems, which, if you're not familiar, Cisco Systems today is about a $70 billion organisation, global organisation. Foundation in building the internet is what they would like to do. So in my career there, I got to do a whole variety of roles, running healthcare, running education. But the most interesting piece that I had at Cisco was this evolution started to happen in our industry. And it still hasn't evolved amazing to a full degree yet. And it was called this thing called the Internet of Things. And everybody thinks about our industry as an industry that's about computers and about software and people sitting in dark rooms programming. But the Internet of Things I was very intrigued about. It was about all of the things that could possibly be connected and how would they be connected. So to give you an idea of how much room there is for our industry to still grow, of all of the things in the world that are possibly able to be connected, currently 1% is connected. So we are going to see a proliferation of connected lights, connected vehicles, connected water, connected trees, a whole heap of really interesting piece, and what comes out of that is a whole proliferation of data. So to give you a feel, in the last 2 years, the amount of data that the internet's created was greater. That amount of data in 2 years was greater than the last 5,000 years combined. So that's what speed is happening in our industry. So that leaves you with a plethora of opportunities in which you can take. I found my role in running the Internet of Things for Cisco Digital. I was blessed to be able to go and talk with premiers, talk with mayors, and have conversations with them about connected cities. And those types of conversations would be, they would go, well, if people are going to live together in cities and this internet thing is going to happen, how will we communicate with them? How will they connect? How will they socially interact? How do we change our services? And cities are still coming to grips with that. But that derives amazing opportunities for us. So some thoughts on that. We have a population of people today that are born that will never have a driver's license. Will never have a driver's license. Autonomous vehicles are with us now, and connected vehicles are with us now. But they will be at a point where, you know, my grandchildren will turn around to me and say, Dad, did you actually hop in a car and were you actually in control of it and did you actually drive it? What were you thinking? That was just crazy. You know, I'll order a car will turn up at my doorstep, I'll do a video conference as I'm on my way to work. But what you've got to think about is all of the implications and roles that are going to come off that. How do I get that car to connect to communicate? How do I make sure it's securely? How do I get video conferencing to happen to a car? So the opportunities are immense that can happen in our industry. So if you've got an impression of what a career in this ICT industry is, change it. Then I come to my last step, which is RIoT Solutions, which we started 5 years ago. And we saw a gap in the marketplace. We saw this cyber security piece happening and connected things happening. So we started the company 5 years ago. So to give you an idea of the opportunities, in our first year, we were the fastest growing company in the country. And our second year, we were the sixth fastest. This year, we have just been nominated into the top 10 fastest growing companies again. I can't find enough people to fulfill the careers in the cyber jobs that I've got coming through. But what's interesting about that, and I did a little bit of a survey of my team here this morning, and I asked them, how many of you went to university? 0. They all pursued a career in cyber by applying themselves, looking to get just an opportunity to start. So my problem is, I know we hear a lot about universities, and I'm not saying universities aren't a great career, I'm saying there are a lot of options available to you. A university graduate, so I spend a lot of time talking to university graduates, with 4 years of a degree under his hand, is actually less employable to me than a young person that I can grab green, that's keen, enthusiastic, passionate, and wanting to do something. So I would encourage you to think about that. So one of the things that I'm actively working with, and ACS is working on, is how do we create apprenticeships in ICT and cyber? So why can't we have an apprenticeship program? So we're trying to do something. We're trying to make it easier for pathways for young students. The last piece, and it was sort of interesting, the question came around women in our industry and huge opportunities for girls in our industry, particularly in cyber. You're absolutely amazingly connected in understanding how people think. And cyber is very much about social, so what do people do and how do we trip them up about what they're doing? So how do we send them a false email and pretend to be somebody else and get them to give us a piece of information and work through that? So that's one career, but there's huge opportunities elsewhere in our people. I personally sit on the board of Autism Queensland, because I have a strong belief that autistic people have a great opportunity in our industry. You're highly focused, you love doing what you do, you get into stuff and you're highly motivated, you're unpolitical. There is a great career. So if you've been diagnosed with autism or somebody saying you're on the autism spectrum, you're a lucky bugger. Don't actually look at it as a disability. What we're trying to do now is actually pull that out and go, you're the people we want. There's a huge opportunity for you to actually take what a lot of people are telling you is a disability. There's actually an advantage, and apply it. So don't get down about it. Actually use it to your advantage. Dyslexia. If you're dyslexia and you're autistic, you're a double lucky bugger. Because if you look at autistic people, 30% of the world's entrepreneurs are dyslexic. Richard Branson, John Chambers, the CEO of Cisco, because they think differently. They think outside the 9 dots. And if you think about cyber, that's how you've got to think. And if you think about solving problems, you've got to think totally differently. But I'll give you a little taste of what our people do. So a typical day for our guys, here's one. A university came to us and said, could you test the security of the university? We're a bit unsure how strong we are. So we turned around the university and said, well, what would constitute a big problem for the uni? And they said, well, 3 things. If you could hack our systems and compromise academic records and results and change them, that'd be a pretty bad thing because the people will be getting a false degree. We get a lot of our money from research. If you could hack into research and change the data, that could be a little bit of a problem for us as well. And then lastly, if you could, we've got a healthcare faculty, medical faculty, so we have people sitting in hospitals. If you could get access to patient records, that'd be a really bad thing. These guys did that in 1 week. But they didn't do it through as complex of things as you thought. So a good example is one of the guys here had a broken leg. So we sent 2 of them into a university and one was hobbling around and they looked like 2 helpless university students hobbling around. And somebody came out of one of these secured research facilities, and people by nature are helpful. Hey guys, can I help you? Sure, we're looking for our next classroom. We don't know where it's at. Lady quite kindly goes, look, you with the broken leg, how about you go and sit in my office and I'll take your friend off to go and do whatever you want to do. We had absolutely open access to get all the little pieces of information we've done. So my comment to you is, a lot of you will be gamers out there. You solve problems. You try and grab little pieces of information through the game to figure out what the next piece is. That's cool to us. That's different thinking. That's amazing. Apply that. So look, a career in this industry is amazing. Do not be down about, if somebody's saying you've got a disability, you're great. If you're a girl, you're fantastic at it. But a couple of simple pieces of advice that I give to people. If people say to me, what is the success? I go, live your life being genuinely curious. Because if you ask yourself just genuinely curious questions, people will tell you more and more information and you will learn at such a different rate. So have no boundaries in your thinking and give back. Always give back to people and give your time. So look, hopefully guys, that's been a bit of an interesting, I'm keen as mustard to hear questions from you. I'm not going to rabbit on too much more as an old bloke, but fire some questions at you and hopefully I can give you some experiences that I've had.
Yeah, no, we've got a fair few questions, some of them really in depth as well. So keen to hear your responses on them. The first question that we've got, is it difficult, do you find it as a difficulty to be part of, as you said, the older generation in the IT industry?
Yeah, I do. You guys think differently to the way I think. Here's a good example. My generation thinks about email. You don't use email. You use Snapchat, Instagram, God knows what other social media mechanism, the way in which you communicate. You don't even know. You don't know about ordering a taxi. You guys just jump on an app and order an Uber car. So your expectation of how technology gets applied is huge. So yeah, it's really hard. But how I overcome that, so by the way, I'm autistic. I have ADHD really bad. Can't concentrate past 15 minutes. But I've elected to use my disability to apply it in a passionate fashion to get me through. So my second thing would be enthusiasm and passion. But this is a young generation game. Comment though, remember my opening statement. You must do your apprenticeship. So really great that you're ambitious and you want to come to this industry, but you have to do your time. You can't be the CEO tomorrow. You've got to do your time.
Yeah, no, definitely. 100% agree with that one. Got to start somewhere. Scott, are you able to share like your biggest client or what industry they're in? and what you've been able to do for them. I know you shared a little bit about the university example and the healthcare example, but what other examples, I guess, do you got?
So I'll give you 3. We just won a contract with Australia Post to refit out every new Australia Post facility and automate it, connect it, make it secure. Now, here's an interesting piece for a generational side of things, and this comment came up this morning. I bet a lot of you don't even know what it means to buy a stamp and stick it on a letter and post it. But that's how Australia Post existed. Today, they are trying to apply technology in their branches to have a totally different experience. And you don't think about Australia Post about posting a letter. How do I track where my parcel's at? Where's it going? You've got companies like eBay using them as, Woolworths is now a pickup zone for your eBay parcels. So that's one. Second one, Flight Centre. So we do all of the Flight Centre facilities across the country. Again, how do we connect them? How do we make it secure? How do we talk about virtual video conferencing with a client? So I want to go to Bali, but Betty at Flight Centre is not the expert on Bali, but Betty can immediately dial me up a person on Bali who's been there and tell me about it. All of that's underpinned by technology. The last one is the ALH group, or part of Woolworths. So we connect every club, pub, poker machine in the country, and how do we do that securely? There's some samples. And then government, love to, but I'd have to shoot you if I told you who my customers were in government.
Understandable. We've got a pretty long question. Given your experience and longevity in the tech industry, what do you think the positions and opportunities are for mature age entrants in the tech industry? You mentioned things like apprenticeships and traineeships. What would you sort of recommend as the best path of entry for somebody who's a bit older?
Yeah, look, so I'm working with the government at the moment on creating pathways, and there are 3 essential pieces of pathways. One is, how do we grab kids in high schools as young as we can and excite them about what a career in the ICT industry would be. The second one is, we've all seen COVID and we've seen a lot of people lose their jobs, but there's a reskilling opportunity there. So if I was an ex-Telstra liney or an electrical engineer building electricity networks, that electricity network is now connected. So my skills that I had can't be replaced, and my understanding of how that business operates is so critical. All I need to do is just reskill myself to get to a digital perspective to do that. And then lastly, it's what I call groups at risk, as I would call it. So Indigenous people, autistic people, dyslexic people. How do we create pathways and opportunity for them? The great thing about our industry is it knows no boundaries. Mate, I've still got a whole heap of steam left in me, and I'll have another company left after this one that I'm still going to do. For me, I don't work because I have to. I work because I love it. I actually come to work and I get a buzz every day of the week, and I just love what I do. But yeah, there's no boundaries to age, reskilling. You just need to apply yourself and be interested.
Sort of on that note, continuing down that pathway, I guess, and I think you sort of mentioned it before a bit. What are some steps that high school students or students who are a bit younger, what can they do to give them a head start to get into the ICT industry?
So keep gaming, keep playing, be genuinely interested, get involved in STEM programs in your schools. So it's really important. Think differently. So it's not about the ICT industry anymore, by the way. It's about the digital industry. So we now see the government spending lots of money building roads and buildings. There is not a building and there is not a road in the world right now that's not connected. If you build a bridge now, you want to measure how many cars are going off on traffic, data analytics. So try and pick a stream where you feel your strength is at. So but the emerging piece, cyber is going to be big. Data analytics is going to be big. So how do I grab this data? How do I make sense out of that? Get yourself into STEM and start to apply that. But try and find yourself some organisations where you can go and get some job experience. And that's how we start a lot of our guys. We just grab some young guys, put them in, see how they go. I also heard a very interesting question before about location. The wonderful thing about our industry now is locations are relevant. So yet I've spent my years traveling the world, but I no longer have to. Whilst I have a security operations center here, there is not stopping one single piece of these guys working from home, looking at a screen, looking at data. If I think about that, why do they have to be in Brisbane? Why can't they be in Rockhampton? Why can't they be in Billawheeler? Why can't they be in Weipa? Locations and not a problem anymore.
Yeah, perfect. I guess we've got time for one more question. This is a bit of a more personal one, but how do you think your autism has contributed to how successful you are now?
It's made all the difference in the world. All I needed to do was decide one day, wake up and not look at what I had as a disability, but look at it as an advantage and apply my disability as a strength. So I spend a lot of time with my staff, for example. When I do a review with my staff, typically a manager with the staff would say to people, here's what you do really, really well, and pat on the back. Here's what you don't do really well, and you need to do more of. Now, typically what an employer will do there is that what they're actually saying is what you do really well, by the way, you like. What you don't do really well at is you don't like. So a smart employer will go, how can I get you to do more of what you like to compensate for the thing that you don't like? So I've just used it to drive my passion to do more.
Wonderful. We've just ran out of time for questions there, but thanks very much for taking your time out today, Scott, to talk to us.
No problem at all. Thank you. Really good. And send any questions through. Happy to answer any. Absolutely.
Hopefully that some of you listening out there are really inspired by his progress as an ICT executive and really know about the career pathways that ICT actually has to offer. As with Genevieve, Scott will aim to answer all unanswered questions, and they will be posted on our website later. If you want to learn more about roles in the ICT industry, check out our career wheel on www.careersfoundation.com.au. Next week, we'll be hearing from Dan Martinez, an esports educator who runs the Fuse Cup, and Major Benjamin Harrington from Defence Force Recruiting. The link for the 21st of October session with the Fuse Cup and Defence Force Recruiting is on your screen now, but we will also email this link to your teachers who will be able to share it with you. We'd also like to extend our thanks to the sponsors who've made this virtual Big Day In possible, along with our two presenters today, Genevieve and Scott. We hope you enjoyed the first Queensland virtual Big Day In, and you'll join us again next week. Don't forget, if you want to rewatch this presentation, that it will be posted on our website later today at www.thebigdayin.com.au. Just click the past events tab. I look forward to seeing you all next Wednesday at 11 a.m. Until then, stay safe.